Welcome to the Hey Docs podcast with your host, Jill Allen. Today, I am joined by Karthik from BerrtyStudio, a company focused on improving patient intake through AI built specifically for healthcare. As AI adoption accelerates, orthodontic practices are being presented with more tools than ever, but many of them aren't designed with HIPAA, compliance, or real-world workflows in mind. In this episode, we're breaking down what orthodontists need to know about AI today, how patient search behavior is evolving, and why the intake experience plays a much bigger role in case starts than most practices realize. Let's jump in. This episode was brought to you by Gray Finch. Hey docs, if you want to have a great business, the right practice management software is essential. But some can be slow, outdated, and lacking good support. That's why I recommend Gray Finch to all orthodontists. It's the fastest, most reliable, and most secure platform to grow your business and improve your efficiency. It's completely web-based, so you can run your entire practice anywhere and from any device with no servers, no downloads, or hidden fees. They even have the most helpful and responsive support team around. Right now, Gray Finch is giving a $500 discount to our listeners. Visit grayfinch.com/Jill Allen to learn more and see why it's one of the fastest growing providers in America. All right, Karthik, I am so excited to have you on Hey Docs today. Thanks for being here.
Oh, my pleasure. It's a big opportunity.
Yeah. Oh, thanks for saying that. So the way I love to start off Hey Docs is to have our guests talk a little bit about themselves. So if you wouldn't mind, would you share who you are and also share a little bit about your background and what led you into getting started with the BerrtyStudio?
Sure. Yeah. Probably let's rewind back like 20 years, maybe. Super young when my parents were still here in the Bay Area. They were both working in tech, and they might have been one of the earliest immigrants who came in when the dot-com bubble was happening. Shortly after, they decided for some reason to transplant back to India and make sure that we were culturally rooted in our culture. When I was like 6 years old and my sister was 12, we went back to India and I started my schooling there. I've pretty much forgotten everything about the Bay Area since growing up, but a long path took me through college and I became an engineer. And then I graduated, started my own small company, which actually sold wedding invitations. In India, the invitations are a big deal. My own wedding, we had 2,000 guests. So you can imagine the scale and volume of these invitations. A lot of sentiment is attached to an invitation, and nobody was selling them online. So we were the first e-commerce player in India. We raised a bunch of funds, and we also had investors brought us along. Surprisingly, all of our customers were in the US. We didn't expect to have e-commerce invitation card purchases from Indian families in the US, but that's what happened. We had good growth, but I wouldn't say it exploded. We were ahead of our times in terms of selling such a sentimental product online. And shortly after, I sold my business to a new set of investors and left to Boston to do my business school. And that's where my next chapter of my life started. In Boston, I went to Babson College. It's known for entrepreneurship. Pretty amazing school. I learned a lot about the education system here and slowly got ingrained into the culture. That's also when I met my wife and then girlfriend, Nora, and she totally put me on a new path. She was the first, my first dentist in my life, and also the one who put me on the path to dentistry slowly. I didn't study dentistry, but I'm in the dental industry because of
Yep.
And from Boston, we both shifted to St. Louis. St. Louis, where she did her dental school, and then we went to Chicago. She did her ortho residency, and now we're back in the Bay Area with a small practice. Life has brought us full circle. We're back where we started, but it's been one hell of a journey.
Yeah. Wow. I love hearing that. That's wonderful. And just to see the path that you have taken and then now to be here and developed a company for our industry is pretty exciting. Do you mind talking just a little bit about BerrtyStudio and what you guys are doing in our industry? And then I definitely want to pick your brain on some AI stuff as we move along here.
For sure, yeah. I'll give you the backstory of OrthoBerry and now BerryStudio. What happened was when Nora was about to graduate from orthodontic residency, the I was working in a company in the Bay Area, so I was trying to convince her to come because I've been working from home for a very long time, and she's always been in the clinic with patients. So I was like, "Can we please go to a place where I can also go to an in-office workspace and work in a company?" And at that time, I was working at Picnic Health. It's the largest AI company for electronic medical records in the healthcare industry. And I was codifying like large data sets of healthcare records for eye disease patients in the US. So I had a lot of AI intel, and Bay Area is obviously hot for AI. So Nora was like, you know what? Okay, you've for many years you've been where I had to go to school. So maybe now I'll shift over to where you want to go to work. And on those terms, she started looking for jobs in the Bay Area. She started like visiting multiple doctors and trying to build network with them, apply to their clinics as with associate positions. And briefly for a year in between when she was in residency, I worked at Invisalign. So I had built quite a relationship with a lot of orthodontists and used those relationships to find associate opportunities. While we were doing this, there was one specific doctor, I don't want to name him, but one of our favorite people. He basically said that he would love to hire my wife, but he didn't have the cash flow to be able to afford an associate. And obviously, for an orthodontist, their associate is their biggest, most expensive purchase. It was reasonable given his cash flows. And given I had done an MBA and I had some experience working in Invisalign, I was like, can we both take a look at your P&L, if you don't mind, and see if there's an opportunity to unlock another $100,000 or so for you to be able to afford a part-time associate. That was how we approached it. He was very generous. He did share his P&L with us and said, okay, help me save money, and there's a job on the line. So we went through the P&L and we found that he was spending a lot of money on revenue cycle management because he was outsourcing all of his services. And I was like, whoa, like 7 to 9% of your collections going to a company just managing collecting money seems like a lot of money. Let's help you probably reduce that overhead. And that would potentially unlock close to $120,000. And he was like, okay, if you could make it happen, we'll start working with you. So Nora and I, he was using Wave Ortho as his practice management software and had fully outsourced everything. So we helped hire a few people in India to remotely do some of his insurance verifications and reconcile his accounts. And then we trained his own staff to bring all their accounts in-house and do financial coordination in-house. So we did that over a 6-month time frame. Today, he did actually realize a little more than $120,000 in savings. So that's good. He's come a long way.
Yes.
Fantastic. Yeah. But during the course of all of this happening, he was like, whoa, I didn't expect it to this would come all the way. If you guys really want to make this into a company, why don't you, like, I'll invest in you. And we were like, whoa, okay. But not able to offer Nora the position he was expecting because while he saved on his overhead, he did not grow as much that specific year. So that was reasonable from where he was coming from. So we kind of lost the job, but we got an investor and somebody who said, if you want to start a company, we'll actually invest in you. And that brought a spark in us. And we we're like, what should we do? We've learned so much about revenue cycle management, and I have some knowledge in AI. Can we combine these two to actually build a product for the industry? And so the first kind of how OrthoBerry started, OrthoBerry is the company's name, BerryStudio is the product's name. How we started was we built an AI bot that can automatically call insurance companies and have the same conversation that a financial coordinator would have with the insurance company, asking about the benefits information. What we noticed was this was only partially successful because when the insurance company was picking up the phone and they heard like a smooth voice coming from an AI call bot, they would think it's spam and often cut the call. So while we had solved a big problem and we were like celebrating, in reality it did not fully work. So we had to take a step back and find a half solution. At Picnic Health, the company I was working at, I learned about this concept called human in the loop AI, which basically means AI does part of your process, but you have an expert human who has empathy, who is imperfect, actually verify information to make sure the AI has done its job, executed it perfectly. So we applied that concept. We said, what if the call can be initiated by an AI and might wait between 5 to 10 minutes, depending on how busy the day is,
Yep.
on hold. Let's let AI get through all of that. Often, the first couple of questions that the system asks you is press the doctor's NPI number, press the doctor's TIN number. Let the AI type all of that in because there's no human input. And as soon as an agent picks up, and we have to ask the finer questions, at that time, let's transfer the call over to an actual call center agent who can finish the call. This really worked. And then we improvised. We also had the call originating from the same area code as the practice, so that there's more like authenticity and genuineness. We can ask more questions that typically regular AI systems cannot answer, like assignment of benefits. So as we improvised, we made this insurance verification bot our first product. So that's how we started. Slowly, when you deliver doctors one thing, they keep asking for more. They think you can deliver more. So from that, we have now become like a new patient intake platform. We have automated gamified mobile forms. We have a beautiful slider. We're probably the first contracting tool that's fully mobile optimized. And it's the first contracting tool that you can add patient education as well, x-rays, scans, videos from the patient. And we're trying to build the whole new patient intake suite. The inspiration for the new patient intake suite was also serendipity. So we had one doctor investing us using our insurance verification bot. And then we spoke to the founder of Orthodox Pro, Mindy. She was the one who said, I'm going to shut down my business. So why don't you build a solution? Because there's a lot of doctors who might actually benefit from something that's very simple. So thanks to her inspiration, we like, okay, if we had the insurance verification piece, like what's before and what's after? Forms are before and contracting is after. So why can't we build those tools? Because those are less human intensive, and we have a lot of scope for improvement for patient experience. Was how we evolved. Yeah. That's the short story.
Yes. Oh, I love stories like yours and Nora's are just so much fun for me to hear, and just to see how this has been a pain point in our industry for a long time. Just in and of itself, the bottleneck of thinking about how much we pay our employees to sit on the phone to find out benefits in such an antiquated way already. I put some of the onus on the insurance companies that, come on, they can't figure out how to get us benefits that are the full benefits easier than the way they are. But that for another podcast. But I love how you guys took a pain point, built on that, and then said and I loved Mandy as well, just took that platform, that standalone platform of being able to provide patients with a really easy way to look at estimates, sign contracts, and then just improving upon that. And then for where you guys are at now, I love it and can't wait to see where it's going to go from there. And the point that I want to make through that is, I think it's just so interesting in watching what you guys have done and seeing where you're going. Is it seems like, lots of people are dabbling in AI, and we can see every month there's a new AI component to our ortho industry, let alone just our lives in general, no matter in business or not in business. But I think that it's even more interesting when we look at it on the healthcare side, and then we understand the components and the regulations that we have to follow, like with HIPAA and different things like that. And I'm wondering if you can maybe talk to us a little bit about that and how you've solved some of those problems, and maybe what you guys see practices getting tripped up in when they're either trying to do it themselves and or looking at different companies out there, and just making sure that we stay safe from the compliancy rules and regulations that we have to be thinking about.
For sure. Yeah. Every time a new technology comes into the world, the first barrier it faces is adoption. And the second barrier it faces is regulation.
Adoption and regulation. Yep, that's true.
So whether it's the internet, whether it's anything else, even email for that matter, first, like you have, how do you get people to use it? And then once people start using it and they love it, now you're like, how do we start controlling all the bad actors on the platform? And with respect to HIPAA was originally created for claim submission. In fact, HIPAA itself stands for Health Insurance Portability Act, which came into place when Obama made Medicare a real thing, and they became the largest healthcare payer in the country, and providers had to find a unified way to submit claims to the government. But then the concepts that they introduced for insurance have since scoped and expanded to cover a lot of things today. Anything that has to do with patient communication, anything that has to do with information transfer with PHI, and anything that has to do with display of information. All three have now come under HIPAA. When we think of AI, let's dissect that separately and then think of that through the concept of HIPAA and see what kind of compliance we should maintain. First is AI. Many people think of AI, the first concept of AI is ChatGPT, right? That's how they begin. And ChatGPT is brutal because you are actually sending your data to a third-party server and using that data to train somebody's large language model. So if you were to type in information about your patients, it's going to a third-party server, and don't do that. So please do not use ChatGPT. A good alternative to ChatGPT is using a paid version of Gemini or Claude, because when you do a paid version, it will have a disclaimer that says that Gemini or Claude is not saving your information. And it will also ensure that you have a private cloud server saved for you, which means your data is not being used to train open source models. But if you do not use a paid version of any platform, your data is being used to train open source models and make them smarter, which is a huge violation of the patient's both trust and HIPAA.
Sure. Wow.
Yeah. So the second thing to keep in mind is AI with respect to other platforms. So if you're using AI yourself, you're probably using primarily on a chatbot, or secondarily, I've seen a lot of doctors use Canva AI to make patient images and so on. Those platforms are fine as long as you use the paid version, because the AI systems over there are basically regurgitating different templates or different concepts from existing models that they have. They are not using the content or copy that you write within your design frame to create new versions of a specific collateral or copy machine. So be very comfortable with using both. Adobe Photoshop has Firefly AI or Canva has Canva Pro AI. Those are really good tools. Continue to use them. They're pretty secure as long as you get the paid version. Now, moving on to third-party platforms, let's say like a remote monitoring platform, let's say an X-ray analysis platform, let's say a patient communication platform, or like an automated voicemail platform, which uses AI in some way. Kind of my rule of thumb is three questions. Just ask these three, and if they're compliant with these three laws, you are pretty safe. The first one I would ask is, are you SOC 2 compliant, SOC 2 compliant? It is a protocol of how information must be transferred between systems. The second one I would ask is whether they are HIPAA compliant. And keep in mind, HIPAA compliance is different from HIPAA certification. So one is like that they're following the rules, and one is that a third party has vetted that they are following the rules. So generally, HIPAA compliance is what is the industry norm in orthodontics. Very few companies have also paid and got HIPAA certification because it's super expensive. In transparency, even BerrtyStudio, we're only HIPAA compliant. We're still $100,000 short of getting HIPAA certification. It's an expensive process. And the third one I would ask is, are they GDPR compliant? GDPR compliance is a compliance system that Europe brought into place for communication between any two people. But if you're applying those rules, you're also covered from a healthcare perspective. A simple implementation of GDPR is allowing patients to opt out of text messages when you send them messages. So if you can ask these three questions, like, are you SOC 2 compliant, are you HIPAA compliant, and are you GDPR compliant? And let the sales rep or maybe a technical sales representative from the company answer those questions, then you can vet and start using those platforms. Otherwise, we will be in the gray area around using AI inappropriately. The one issue that many large providers, still nobody is suing orthodontists at this level, but large healthcare hospitals like Sutter Health, like One Medical, have been sued. Recently, there was another online BetterHelp. I think GoodRx. These companies were sued with many millions of dollars because they were using third-party AI platforms without fully vetting that their AI infrastructure was HIPAA compliant. The issue is this: if you enter information into ChatGPT, and ChatGPT gets exposed because the model is leveraging the patient's information, who is at fault? Is it ChatGPT, OpenAI's fault, or is it your fault? Something that we fail to read is when you use any open source platform, the terms and conditions you sign when you initially create your login is agreeing to allow your information to be used for open source research applications. So that means inadvertently, the practice is giving away their rights to be sued if something goes wrong. Yeah, I would just keep two rules of thumb. One is use paid tools wherever possible. Do not use open source tools. Number two is ask three questions: SOC, GDPR, HIPAA, and you should be good to go.
Yeah. Oh, such good information. And I feel like we've been talking about AI for a while now. And as you said, I love that adoption and then regulation. 3 years ago, 4 years ago, it was more about just adopting, right? We're all like, oh, there's all these new things we can do. And now it really is, okay, now that we've gotten used to using them, what are the regulations? And I think that I'm so glad that you explained that, especially with HIPAA and some of the things that we're using in our offices, because we have moved past the adoption and, okay, can we train our teams to work more efficiently with tools that we're putting in front of them and adopt using those, which I think we've done a really great job with that. But now, like there has always been, are we keeping our practices safe and our businesses safe? And I love the idea of thinking about, we just have to be so careful about throwing patient names out there. And gosh, I've seen it over and over with offices that we've worked with where it is, the team gets so comfortable, but then they forget that it's, oh, this is actually protected data that even though I want to respond to Mrs. Jones' email about X, Y, and Z, and I want chat to help me write that response, I really need to think about that on, like you said, should we be moving off of a free platform? Should we be moving into something that is maybe not learning from us or taking that data and putting it somewhere else where ultimately, like you said, if there's a breach, we could be found liable for that breach.
Yeah, there was a fun story when I was working in Invisalign. My primary role was like financial engineering, and I would go into practices that bought a lot of Invisalign and therefore had poor cash flows and help them optimize that, especially when they increase their share. So one day I was like so excited. I took a picture of a lot of like aligner boxes in the doctor's office and I put it on Instagram.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I tagged the office. The office was also excited, but then the patient kind of replied saying, "Hey, this is HIPAA violation. My case might be there." So yeah, they had to scramble and fix a lot of things and apologize. And luckily, the doctor did not get sued. But yeah, something as simple as that. Like I've seen even doctors like hold 10 aligner boxes and kind of play with it, but you've not taken consent from the 10 patients. Yeah. Something as simple as that can be a violation. And the AI tools are not there yet because it's very private. But we should be careful and make sure our teams are sensitive towards not sharing that information.
Yeah. And now, a word from the sponsors who make this podcast possible. Are you thinking about opening an orthodontic practice? I know, it's a big decision, but saving 25% on the ADEC equipment you need to get started, that's an easy one. Because ADEC has a special program called Smart Start, designed to help you launch your first practice. You get up to 25% off your ADEC orthodontic equipment and furniture. You also get complimentary services to help you run and grow your business. And my favorite part, access to the Smart Start pricing for 2 whole years after you open your doors. That gives you flexibility to add more chairs as your cash flow grows. It's pretty smart. As an orthodontist, you care about getting all the little details right, and ADEC really got it right with this program. So if starting off with a big savings on ADEC equipment sounds good to you, the ADEC Smart Start is definitely worth a closer look. Just follow the link in the show notes to learn more. Hey docs, let's talk about SmileSuite, because it's not just another scheduling system. It's a game changer in the world of new patient management. And as a proud SmileSuite partner, I've witnessed the incredible impact it has on practices of all sizes. SmileSuite means your new patient calls and web leads are expertly handled 7 days a week, even during nights and weekends. And they offer top-notch customizable presentation software and seamless post-consultation follow-up. It's like having a secret weapon for your practice's success. Curious? Dive into the revolution at getsmilesuite.com. And don't forget to mention Hey Docs to unlock some extra goodies. Elevate your practice with Smile Suite because every smile deserves a suite of excellence. So I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind if we switch gears a little bit since we're down this rabbit hole of AI and whatnot. And I know this is a little off from what you guys are doing in BerrtyStudios, but I still think it all kind of ties in. I'm curious what your thoughts are just coming from your background on where we are going, talking about chat and Google and some of these platforms that we're using, in how patients are going to be on their side using AI to find their practitioners and interact, how they might want to interact with our orthodontists of the future. Do you have some thoughts on that and some guidance there?
For sure. For this, I'm going to take on the role of treatment coordinator at Asana Ortho and speak from that perspective. Obviously, my wife has been my first employer in orthodontics. I'm proud to work under her. And our small practice in California is doing pretty well. So California being like the leading edge of tech, I think it's fair to say that we have a lot of users coming in from very unexpected places. They come from Reddit forums, they come from Discord channels, they come from ChatGPT, and whoa, we are only aware of Google and Facebook marketing, or like general dentists referring to it. What about these third-party platforms? So we started doing a lot of research, trying to figure out like, is this really a thing or is this very temporary? Are patients actively searching for providers and medical advice on these platforms? And I came across this random statistic. Let's not talk about medicine, but let's talk about something else for now and then come back to medicine.
Yep.
So Amazon had opened a search bar, and Amazon search bar, their goal was if our search bar is the best search for any purchasing or any product purchasing, people would not have to go to Google first, search for when can I get the best Stanley Cups, and then go to Amazon. So Amazon kept working on this for about 3 years. And after they launched a small AI for search in the back end called Elasticsearch, then 40% of all product searches today in the US originate on Amazon. Wow. So that means people are directly going to the browser, searching for Amazon, and then they're starting their search journey from within Amazon. So Google does not have information on what your purchasing preferences are. That's crazy. But then something else happened in the last 1 year. So within Amazon, even today, about 15% of all product searches are not done by humans. They're done by bots. Okay. Yes. Wow. And which is why Amazon has been complaining over and over again that all of our advertising revenue on Prime or within the Amazon platform, a bot will obviously ignore an advertisement. Only a human gets distracted and will want to purchase that. You don't create need. So they were losing a lot of impressions to bots who are not going to interact with those impressions anyways. So 15% was happening with bots, but only 3 of those 15% is Amazon's own bots. Meaning, so many users are using like good browsers like Brave or Comet or even Google Chrome and using Perplexity or some other ChatGPT bot to do the purchasing for them.
Interesting.
Yeah. So Asana Ortho, my marketing coordinator is spending a ton of time trying to like research products in Amazon and reading the reviews and comparing what to purchase for the next drop off, for example. Now we don't do it anymore. We just have Perplexity's Comet browser. We just write a query and we say, read the reviews, find the best thing. This is my budget. Go search Amazon and get 3 best products for me to go give to the doctors next week. So in Amazon's own platform, beating Amazon's own bot are these third-party bots searching on Amazon. So it's crazy, right? People are not.
Gosh, it is totally crazy. My brain is going, wow.
Yes. So if 40% of all product purchases are on one platform, and in that one platform, if 12% of all searches today are from a bot, imagine what's happening for the rest of the industry. That's the impact of what's going to happen in the future. Today, yes, people do trust providers the most, and then the provider's website next, and then the provider's own user-generated content third. But they are slowly developing trust on these chat platforms as well. The chat platforms gives them a lot of information summarized in a very concise manner to start making decisions before they do a deep dive and choose the provider of choice. If a patient only has, let's say, 30 minutes to research and find which orthodontist they want to have a second opinion with, ChatGPT is probably going to be the first place they go to, not Google search. So that's slowly changing. About 7% of all searches today have already moved into AI platforms. And this is a statistic that Gemini published. Gemini is Google's own search platform, right? So if that is happening, we have to get prepared for a world where patients are not going to go to Google or Google Maps or Google My Business to find who you are and then do all the hard work and juggling of reading different websites and making their choices, but using ChatGPT as the first filter to get through content. And if ChatGPT is the gateway for future patients, how do we kind of address them, meet them there? The last, I think, 10, 15 years of orthodontics has been like a clear focus on SEO first, search engine optimization, and followed by building authenticity and a brand on social media, because younger patients and consumers decide who to trust from social media. But the future could be a little different. And I'm going to give you like 3 rules again out of 3. I love 3 to maximize and capitalize ChatGPT before all your competitors do. The first one is called cloud stacking. Cloud stacking is the system where instead of just creating a website for yourself, you create multiple individual websites for yourself, HTML pages, and then you can upload them for free to third-party servers like Amazon S3, like Google Cloud, like Microsoft BigQuery, and so on. So by uploading your HTML pages to these pages, it will give you a lot of authority because those websites are much more easily fetchable for the ChatGPT kind of bot as opposed to your website. This is the equivalent of guest blogging. If you were to write an article about why you should start orthodontics at 7 years old and post it on Huffington Post, obviously ChatGPT would favor that article over your website. But getting an article on Huffington Post is not as easy as writing a free website and putting it on Amazon's S3 server. There are no gateways and there's no Wikipedia kind of citation flow to verify if the article is fully genuine. So cloud stacking is a very good technique. Until it becomes spam, it's a good technique for us to leverage and keep growing our authority. The second technique is, I know a lot of people do backlinking. They hire a third-party marketing agency to go to third-party sites and get links back to their website. But I would prioritize 2 specific places to mention your website. Over prioritize directories like Yelp or any other directory, Yellow Pages, and over prioritize forums. Forums like Discord and Reddit, they have a lot of impact because they have textual content. They have a lot of impact on ChatGPT kind of bots. It is much more easier for a bot to index a text-based forum as opposed to an image-intensive forum. Which kind of brings us to a third point. UGC is critical, like user-generated content is critical. However, user-generated content inside social media platforms will make no impact on your ChatGPT results. Like platforms like ChatGPT, for example, they will not be able to read through the hundreds of user-generated content inside Facebook and make a decision as to which one holds the most authority. That's because social media platforms are designed not to have all the information. The whole point of social media platform is to curate information into your newsfeed. Right? If you don't see the right posts popping on your social media platform at the right time, you would probably not be engaged. And that is exactly how much data the ChatGPT kind of platform also has access to, because it only has access to specific instances of information, not the whole directory of information. It cannot make an independent decision as to which user-generated content holds more authority or value. Therefore, if you were to ask your patients or their families to give you content, ask them to put Google reviews, ask them to put Yelp reviews, ask them to have an article, like a testimonial video on YouTube or on your website. Put these in places outside of social media platforms where the idea of a news feed or a curated content is not the stick of the day. If you follow these 3 principles, you will win on ChatGPT. And I've been seeing some great results for us on ourselves.
That is fantastic. And gosh, I'm just sitting here listening, thinking, oh my gosh, this is such good, relevant information. And I know a lot of listeners are probably like, oh my gosh, my head is blown. Like, I didn't even know to be thinking about this. But I think that is the hard part, right? Is we weren't even talking about AI 10 years ago, like really. And it's just smacked us in the face and we all got excited about it. But now we really have to think about what is this going to do for the way we're practicing. And I think about it even for me as a business owner and a consultant that focuses on helping new practices get up and get started. And we really work on trying to make sure that we're staying tip of the spear out there. And I think if we are not paying attention to the pivots that are happening in the way our marketing is going and the way that just you think about, we've got significant amount of different generations. We've got generations that are complete digital natives that just eat all of this stuff up. And then we've got all of these big changes. If we as an industry don't start pivoting towards and really paying attention to this, we're really just going to get left behind. So I appreciate you just giving us some of your knowledge. And even though it, for somebody who's listening, they may be like, I don't even know what cloud stack is. I'm gonna have to ask ChatGPT to explain that to me. That's okay. Ask it, because I think the more, even if we aren't experts in it, we need to have an understanding of it and not get left behind by thinking that, oh, I just need to keep paying into paid advertisement and the old way of doing things. It's just not going to work for our orthodontic practices of the future. So I'm curious to know, and I know you and I could just keep going and going here, and I'm probably going to have you back on just so that we can keep exploring this. But I'm wondering if you can just talk to us a little bit about just some things that you guys are seeing and how OrthoBerry plays into patient intake experience and what that is looking like when we're looking at patients into the practice and that interaction, as you were saying, from getting them to interact in the beginning to after they've left the practice, and just what that all is looking like. Can you just break it down for us a little bit, and how BerrtyStudio is fitting that need and helping practices out there?
Sure. Obviously, as a practice ourselves, we are a power user of the platform, and then we have 30 other offices using them in different magnitudes across the country. So first, the place where OrthoBerry comes into play is when the patient has called the practice, you can record the call and it automatically creates a contact for them. That feature is not widely used, but it's like a contact capture feature. And after that, when we save that information, we have Ortho2 Edge as our practice management software. That's what the previous doctor was using, and we just adopted the same. So we add the patient onto the PMS, and we also add the patient onto OrthoBerry. And then we can send them a form. Our forms have 97% completion in the Bay Area. I think generally across the country, they have about 70% completion before the consult without a follow-up. And I think the differentiator really is that there are a lot of forms that look like Google Forms, but our forms are gamified and mobile friendly from the get-go. So the number of questions it differs depending on who the personality is. And we also have implemented a concept called progressive disclosure, which means one question at a time is all you have to focus on. It's not infinite scrolling. So forms come back. Once the form comes back, the AI initiates a call for insurance verification. And I have a team member who does insurance coordination who picks up the call from the AI and finishes the insurance verification and posts information back into BerrtyStudio. And then once that's complete, we have a Asana like task board inside OrthoBerry, which kind of you can track the entire new patient intake experience over there. It's very similar to Asana. We built it with the intention that Asana and Align were disintegrating. They actually announced that last year. And we now have a partnership with Align because I was a former employee there, and Nora really advocated for it to bring the integration back in our platform. So for those people who viewed Asana's Align integration in the past, we are a good alternative for them to switch to. So yeah, you can track the entire new patient experience in that Kanban kind of view. And once that's complete, the next step is patient comes over to the consultation. And at the consultation, we have a beautiful treatment presentation chart where you can not just like present the fees, which I think a lot of platforms have that, but you can also present the treatment summary, the consult summary as well. Like what did the doctor share? What are some relevant reference images that they can see? If you have a class 2 bite, they can see other images. You can also see some marketing posters within the fee presentation tool, which patients can like at our practice, a lot of patients opt for the whitening add-on because it's features over there, or they take part in the pet contest. or they like enroll their kids in the Smile Scout observation program because it's all featuring in the digital platform. And then they go from there. Again, through progressive disclosure, they can sign a contract. I think we have the only industry's first mobile friendly contracting tool. So if you can buy a Tesla car on your phone, you can sign a $6,000 orthodontic contract on your phone as well.
Love it.
It's awesome. And then automatically from there, the payments begin as well. So you can optionally switch on or switch off payments. We do not charge any like processing fees as a platform. They only pay whatever they have to pay to the interchange fees. I don't think we want to be like a payments provider at any point in time. That's a totally different ballgame. So we just are the platform that enable them to collect the payments thereafter. The one differentiating feature, a new patient intake is, I think, from a technology standpoint, feels pretty standardized for the practice. For the patient, you can do a lot, but for the practice, it's like, yeah, okay, I can probably use this proposal tool. I can probably use this form. I can probably use this paper. Why should I use this different? The two differentiators I would say is one is the tasks board. Like it's all in the tasks. You can like really see everything through the lens of Asana, and you can configure Asana however your consultant recommends it to be. And the second differentiator is like in my practice, for example, every time we go through a consultation every week, we do like a small huddle to see what could have we changed in our talk track. Because one big difference we had, like our starts have increased close to 40% in Asana compared to the same time previous year. And most of that had to do with going back to the basics and becoming focused on patient education inside the consult room. I've seen a lot of consultations as part of my Align days, but a lot of people do like shebang and just jazz and technology and like crazy tools, but they forget that patients are coming because they want to trust you. They want to learn about what's going on. It's a two-year long saga for them. You want to send them off on the right note to make sure they're prepared for the whole journey. So we really dialed down on patient like education, and we kept rewriting our script. And I think like today, phase one patients, we're extremely good because phase one is probably the hardest case to sell since most parents do not have phase one treatment themselves. And patients, like they're very young and they come in with the expectation that, oh, my kid's probably going to need braces in the teenagers, not when they're 7 years old. But that's something we have cracked. So every time we improve a script, we have a feature called Berry Nerd, where the practice can go save their own SOP and they can access that SOP whenever they want it. It's unlike traditional like Word documents or Notion pages. There's an AI search feature where they can search and the SOP would automatically come immediately to them. And the SOP can have audio, video, and textual content. So it's like the learning part integrated with the execution is what kind of differentiates us.
Wow, that's great. I know that you and I could just keep talking. And like I said, I'm going to have you on again so we can just keep finding out more. But we are going to have to wrap up. That's always the saddest part about finishing up my podcast is we have to bring it to an end. So here's what I would love to know. If somebody, and I know we've probably got a lot of listeners that are like, wow, I really need to talk to BerrtyStudio. I need to see what they're doing. I definitely see a need in my practice and I like where they're going with things. What is going to be the best way that any of my listeners can get a hold of you and just find out a little bit more about BerrtyStudio?
Yeah, just come to BerrtyStudio.ai and book a call. And please mention that Jill Allen referred you. That'll be amazing. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. This has been so informative. And I thank you for just taking a deep dive into AI. I know we talk a lot about AI, but I think you've really opened up our eyes to some things that are going on that we all need to be paying attention to. You guys are business owners as well within the industry. And I think for all of us, for our practices to stay healthy and to make it the next 20 years or however long we've got in front of us, we can't do it the old way. We've got to think about the new way and what's coming at us. So thank you for just being so informative today.
My pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity, Jill. And your team has been fantastic at coordinating all of the pre-events to this. So would love to come back on and continue to stay in touch.
Yes, absolutely. The way I love to finish up Hey Docs, if you're not talked out yet, is I always love to finish this up with a little speed round. So are you ready to finish up with the speed round?
Let's do it.
All right, here we go. What is one business trend you think more people should be paying attention to?
Forget the noise, go back to the basics. Pick 3 metrics, measure and manage it.
Oh, I love that. Measure and manage, measure and manage. That's great. All right. What is one industry challenge you think will shape the future of our practices?
One thing I'm extremely scared about is the democratization of orthodontics. I feel companies that like TwoFront or Candid Pro that make orthodontists mere virtual consultants is going to disrupt our industry and cut really disrupt the patient experience as well. So I think it's going to change our industry, and I'm scared about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Ooh, that's a good one to be thinking about. And then the last one, if you had unlimited resources, what is one big idea you'd love to bring to life?
I've told this to my wife every night. I think chair-side robot. If I were to make her life better and go back to my roots in mechanical engineering, I would definitely build a chair-side robot for simple procedures.
Ah, I love that. I think that's a great idea. All righty. It has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for being on Hey Docs, and we will definitely do this again.
Thank you so much, Jill.
All right.